evening. You are watching the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. First, the headlines. 99% is the completion volume in the construction of Ghazir gas field project, and $9 billion is the current investment in Khazan and Ghazir fields. 806 cases of COVID-19 are recovered and 896 new confirmed cases announced. And the French government announces reopening of schools and cinemas from Monday. Those were the headlines. Now for the news in detail. 99% is the completion volume in the construction of Ghazir gas field project, in which production operations are expected to start with 500 million cubic feet of gas at the end of this year. BP Oman announced that more than $9 billion is the current investment in Khazan and Ghazir fields. More details in the following report by Saleh bin Khalfan al-Rahbi.
Ghazir field is getting ready to start producing 500 million cubic feet per day of natural gas by the end of this year, with 99% completion of the project, which is one of the largest investment projects in the Sultanate. The project, implemented by PP Oman, is located in the concession area number 61, which includes more than 10.5 billion cubic feet of gas reserves, an extension of Khazan field project, which began production in 2017. The production of the two fields of gas is expected to increase to 1.5 billion cubic feet per day, and the current 35,000 barrels production of condensates per day will double. Achieving this rate of production required an investment of $9.3 billion of the total investment of the project, which amounts to $16 billion, in addition to drilling 126 wells in Khazan and Ghazir, out of 300 wells planned to be drilled in the project within 15 years. OQ owns 30% of the project, Petronas owns 10%, while BP owns 60%. Khazan and Ghazir Fields project will lead to boosting the Sultanate's gas production, raising its contribution to the state's public revenues, opening new horizons for industrial projects, and achieving the government's goals in enhancing the national economy. For the Sultanate of Oman television, Saleh bin Khalfan al-Rahbi.
The Ministry of Health stresses that 806 cases of COVID-19 have been recovered to reach 14,780 cases. The ministry announced 896 new confirmed cases, which brings the total number registered in the Sultanate to 28,566 cases, including 128 deaths.
Back to work is a step of hope for the best to come. Here are the instructions that will protect you from coronavirus. Wear masks while leaving your house by following proper procedures. Keep a physical distance of at least 2 meters away from others. Follow the main hygienic procedures of washing hands and sanitizing from time to time. Avoid using elevators as much as possible, and if you have to use it, ensure less number of people to guarantee physical distance from one another. Gatherings at entrances, waiting rooms, offices, meeting halls, and prayer places are forbidden. If you have any symptoms of the disease, immediately contact the bodies concerned specified by the Ministry of Health. By adhering to these instructions, it will assist you in preventing from contracting the COVID-19. Stay safe.
Millions of children in France are preparing to return to school on Monday after 3 months away. France is also reopening cinemas from Monday and stadiums for team sports. The French government announced today that up to 5,000 spectators will be allowed to attend sports events in stadiums when they reopen on July the 11th. The limit applies to big event stadiums and concert halls. More than 29,600 people have died from virus-related conditions in France, but hospital admissions are constantly falling, and the national lockdown was lifted in May. The coronavirus pandemic has passed grim milestones, as Brazil confirming 1 million infections and Europe chalked up more than 2.5 million today as the World Health Organization warned of a new and dangerous phase. The virus has now killed more than 458,000 people and infected 8.6 million worldwide. Brazil reported a one-day record of nearly 55,000 infections yesterday, becoming the second country to pass 1 million cases after the United States. Brazil's death toll now stands at nearly 49,000 and has risen by more than 1,000 each of the past 4 days, although its curve finally appears to be starting to flatten. Ethiopian Foreign Minister Gido Andargachew yesterday rejected Egypt's call for a dispute over a giant dam on the River Nile to be referred to the United Nations Security Council. The $4.6 billion project on the Blue Nile in Ethiopia would create the most powerful hydroelectric dam in Africa. Ethiopia sees it as a lifeline to help millions of its people escape from poverty. But Egypt regards it as a potentially existential threat, fearing the project could significantly reduce its access to water unless there is an agreement on the period over which the dam is filled. Cairo wants the Security Council to intervene to help the parties reach a fair and balanced solution and to prevent Ethiopia from acting unilaterally. But Andargachew dismissed the call, suggesting it was tantamount to inviting the UN to interfere in Ethiopia's sovereign affairs. Still to come on News Bulletin. An underwater museum in Sri Lanka is ready for tourists from August 1st.
Non-compliance with the directives of the Supreme Committee dealing with coronavirus COVID-19 exposes you to risk and legal action. Stay safe.
Welcome back to the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. Oman Technology Fund announced the investment in the Distance Learning Center, which is a smart educational platform called Sana Electronic Platform, which harnesses the scientific and technical capabilities in the information technology in the field of e-learning and distance education and adapting it to serve higher education institutions inside and outside of the Sultanate, taking on their responsibility to specialize in this field by providing the necessary and specialized expertise and skills. The platform came within the initiative of 1 million riyals from the Oman Technology Fund to overcome the challenges of the spread of the coronavirus. In light of the current conditions and the existing need of higher education institutions in the Sultanate to activate modern education systems that can keep pace with the modern technologies using e-learning and distance education systems so they are scientifically and technically compatible with the global standards recognized in these areas. Samail Industrial Estate received many applications for investment from businessmen and investors. The number of investment applications during the first half of 2020 amounted to 19 applications for commercial, industrial, and service investment. The volume of actual investment in the industrial estate exceeded 85 million Omani riyals. The achievement percentage at the service building in the industrial estate reached more than 50%. The current total size of Samail Industrial Estate amounted to 7,600,000 meters, and it was distributed for different industrial sectors. The total deposits at the banking sector recorded a growth of 3.6% as to reach 24 billion Omani riyals at the end of April last year. Statistics issued by the Central Bank of Oman pointed out that the private sector deposits at the banking sector witnessed an increase by 10.5%, as to reach more than 16 billion Omani riyals at the end of April last year. The figures also showed that the total credited accounts granted from Islamic and conventional banks and other deposits companies has increased by 3.2% as to reach 26.4 billion Omani riyals at the end of last April. More than 3.5 million travelers have been recorded at the Sultanate's airports till the end of March 2020. Statistics issued by the National Center for Statistics and Information pointed out that the number of travelers had witnessed a decrease by 18.9% compared to the same corresponding period in 2019. The number of international flights through Muscat International Airport at the end of last March had amounted to more than 22,300 flights, with a decline by 15.3% during the same corresponding period in 2019. Sri Lanka opened its first underwater museum in the southern port city of Gale on Wednesday, ahead of plans to start reopening the country to tourism on August 1st. The museum was built by the country's navy and is about 50 meters underwater within the port. The statues in the museum were made from discarded concrete and steel by navy personnel. One of the aims of the underwater museum project is to promote the regeneration of corals and fish breeding. Gale, with its ancient Dutch fort, is a tourism hotspot in the country. The country attracted around 2 million tourists last year, and the sector contributes around 11% to the nation's gross domestic product. The lockdown was lifted on May the 26th. There have been 1,947 cases of coronavirus in Sri Lanka with 11 deaths. This is the Sultanate of Oman television. Before we end tonight's news bulletin, here are the main points once again. 99% is the completion volume in the construction of Ghazir gas field project, and $9 billion is the current investment in Khazan and Ghazir fields. 806 cases of COVID-19 are recovered and 896 new confirmed cases announced. And the French government announces reopening of schools and cinemas from Monday. With that, we come to the end of tonight's news bulletin. From all of us here at the newsroom and the studios, thank you for watching and have a good night.